Now we want to get more on this very complicated issue of gun control, and I'm joined by Larry Pratt. He's the Executive Director of Gun Owners of America, and he joins me now live from Washington. You know, this gun control debate is very, very old right now. It has basically well-trodden territory for everyone. I want to ask you, when you heard about this event in Charleston, something that I'm sure disturbed you, did nothing change in the way you viewed gun control and the access that young people have to very powerful firearms in the United States?
Well, what I suspected when I first heard it was that this was likely a gun-free zone. And as I looked into it, I found that in South Carolina, the law leaves that call pretty much up to the pastor. And of course, this was a very vocal anti-Second Amendment pastor who voted anti-gun in the state legislature. So the dirtbag that carried out this atrocity had probably chosen quite consciously a place where he would expect little immediate resistance. He found a gun-free zone and took advantage of it, and indeed I was right, my initial suspicion. We have been facilitating what these dirtbags do. All but one of our mass murders in the United States has occurred in a gun-free zone, so-called.
I don't understand what you mean about that. You're actually suggesting that if his weapon wasn't concealed, this would have been prevented?
No, I'm suggesting that if someone else had been legally able to be in possession of a gun at the scene of that crime, that he very likely would have met resistance before as many people were killed.
But
That's happened in places in the United States where armed citizens have been able to stop wannabe mass murderers. It's happened fairly often.
This was a place of worship. Surely people can understand that in schools, that in churches, in those places, a gun-free zone is what it says it is, that you should be able to expect safety there without having
to be
armed to the...
Not at all. Christian doctrine teaches that man is fallen, he's sinful, and our natural tendency is to do bad things. So especially in a church, we ought to be alert to the fact that there might be a dirtbag on the loose. Maybe not a member. This guy was certainly not a member of that church. But to try to assume that no defense is a good defense is a lousy theology.
Mr. Pratt, people in the community there who have been absolutely wounded by this tragedy, heart and soul, are saying, look, to say that this was just one deranged individual does not do justice to the issue at hand in that community. Nothing has changed for you, in your opinion, after yet another massacre in the United States.
Well, apparently nothing has changed for you to ask the question in that fashion, because surely we're going to come to the point where we realize that we've got to do away with gun-free zones.
So how do you envision, how would it have played out in that church if someone did have a gun?
Well, the dirtbag could have been, if someone had had a gun, could have been immediately confronted, and whether or not they actually were able to shoot him would have likely broken off his attack. That's what happened in the Clackamas Mall when a dirtbag started what looked like it was going to be a mass murder, and a fellow who was carrying a concealed weapon, I might add against the law, was able to stop it. They never prosecuted that guy, I wonder why. And in Darby, Pennsylvania, at a psychiatric hospital, a guy came in and shot his doctor, killed a caseworker, and the doctor was actually able, again, carrying illegally, was able to shoot the dirtbag at the scene of the crime.
Now, Mr. Pratt, President Obama and others have pointed out that, you know, the facts go against you in terms of the amount of crime committed in the United States when you compare it to other developed countries. I'll have to ask you again. You know, your mind hasn't been changed at all by the very tragic events in Charleston. You think the gun laws in the United States, state by state, are just fine the way they are?
The amount of crime in other countries is something that is not necessarily a good comparison for the argument you're trying to make. The fact of the matter is that in England, which is supposedly as close to a gun-free place as you can get, they had a mass murder in North England that took over a dozen people's lives. Charlie Hebdo was in a very, very gun-free country legally. That took some 17 people's
Those are very
lives.
tragic incidents which have no bearing on the statistics, both in France
and in
Britain. As you know, the murder rate especially by gun violence, is incredibly low compared to the United States.
But you know what? In Britain, the murder rate is higher than the county in which Gun Owners of America is located, right outside of Washington, D.C., where we're just loaded up with guns.
And we'll have to leave the debate right here for the moment, but I'm sure this is something we'll continue. Mr. Pratt, I appreciate you coming on and exploring the debate with me.
Nice for you to have me here. Thank you.